have to share, tell it kind of as fast as we could remember this.
Yeah,
You for sure know Code of Weekend by heart.
So we are live. So we are live. So if everybody wants to, so hi everybody who's live, please. Oh no, wait, something.
Tell it kind of as fast as we could remember. You for sure know Code of Weekend.
Okay, we don't need to hear ourselves.
Okay, they can hear us. Yes.
Can someone say hi in either on LinkedIn or YouTube that you can hear us and everything? Testing microphone. Let us know. Or someone can go on the stream and check it out. The stream is on LinkedIn. I just posted it. Or Anastasia just posted. I can go. I posted it.
Okay, there are messages. Can you guys confirm in the chat that you can hear us?
Okay, can you?
Yeah, I think
it's working?
Online. Okay.
Nice. Okay.
They can hear us clearly. Fantastic.
Nice. That's very good. Okay. And you can also see us if we are like small in the window. We are less important than the slides. Where do we have? Oh, nice. Okay. And we are in a circle, even smaller.
Nice.
Cool. So, hi everybody. And we start? We start.
Yes.
I think everybody's ready. So, everybody who's online, if you have questions on chat, if you have questions, you can ask them, but we will answer at the end of the event. Yeah. Okay. In the room, of course, you can ask the questions because we will be able to react. But today we don't have anybody online to operate the online part. Okay. So the first question that I have is, though, who is today the first time at a PyLadies event? Oh, that's a lot of people. Also in the chat, please, whoever is the first time at a PyLadies event, please write. You can write either on YouTube in the chat or I think also on LinkedIn. Anyway, you can also do networking even if you're not in the same room.
Yeah,
so make friends everywhere. This is a career event, right? So, so it's not. Let's see. We are not in the. If we want to be in the picture, we have to have the camera here. So yeah. So welcome to today's event where we are talking about career growth with AI, and the big question is whether we are there yet. The opinions are mixed. Who here is of the opinion that we are there yet?
Skeptical people.
That's
nice.
That's a healthy life attitude. Okay, so, and then, wait a second. Technical difficulties. No. That was correct.
You need to allow something.
No, I need to click on the
nice
slides.
Magic.
Magic. Okay, so today's agenda is who we are, why we are here, and we're going to talk about the self-mentoring with AI, self-coaching with AI, and a little bit of what AI can do for you, and we will have Q&A at the end. And if there's time and interest, everybody can take we have some prompts that we talk about, and everybody can take those prompts and try them out with their own career problems, if you have any. Some people don't have any career problems.
I guess we're not here.
99 problems, but career is not one. Okay, so who are we? So today we have Anastasia Tereza. You want to say something about yourself?
Absolutely. Yes. I also need to look at the camera. Time to time. Yes. Hi everyone. Nice meeting you today, especially all people who joined PyLadies for the first time. Maybe we also should discuss what this is about.
Mhm.
Yeah, my name is Anastasia. I'm here today as a data and AI mentor. It started essentially with my own story. So I was working for a long time in the research, and then I was analyzing a lot of data in the research, and then I decided that I could be a data scientist. And I was pretty convinced I could do this. Industry was not convinced from very beginning, I must say. So I had quite some journey to transition. I did it successfully. And afterwards, I realized it did not have to be that complicated. But if I had someone who could tell me what I could do, I could do this much faster. And this is how I become mentor. Essentially, now I'm helping people not necessarily transition from research to industry, but with all kind of transition, right? Yeah, that's it about me. Do you want to say a few words about yourself?
Yeah. So, and I'm Tereza. I'm a data leadership coach. I studied computer science, and I ended up in data science a little bit like, right place, right time style. So I was doing my PhD in computer science on information retrieval, which was at the same time data science was getting labeled as data science. And then there were like 3 jobs in Germany labeled data jobs, and I applied for one. Anyways, so
Success story.
Yeah. It was called content discovery. You had to, even back then, read between the lines of what that can possibly be. So that thing about data science has not changed. It's called one thing. You end up doing something completely different at work, depending on your luck and your luck. Okay. So, so I worked in a lot of companies, data science, data engineering, product, and so on. But my previous job was teaching data science in boot camps. And so I did 4 years of teaching people who are career changers. And I ended up going to say, like, I want to do leadership coaching rather than teaching entry-level people, because I thought, well, the boot camp solves the entry-level problem, theoretically. And so this year I started with the leadership coaching. And but I'm also, since 2018, running the Pirates Hamburg, which is an international mentoring community for women and people from underrepresented groups in tech who are finding their way into Python and leadership around Python and coding and so on. And today we normally have slides to introduce Pirates. Today we don't have slides. We have a code of conduct. We follow 2 codes of conduct, the Pirates Code of Conduct and the Lady Nerd Code of Conduct. But bottom line is, we do not tolerate any form of harassment. And if anybody doesn't feel safe for whatever reason, something happens, somebody does to you something that you feel like it's uncomfortable, please reach out to me during the event, and if it's something for later. But later I cannot know who that person was that I would have otherwise maybe removed from the room with my power. Anyway, so and today we are at ThoughtWorks. So special thanks to Agatha, who's like a very always welcome Gastgeber, how you would say in Germany. So it's the best place to have a meetup for us in Hamburg. So we asked, are we there yet? I asked this question to Perplexity and ChatGPT, 2 of the LLMs out there that I use, and they kind of have different attitudes towards question and answering. So Perplexity goes directly, yes, career growth with AI is not only possible, it's already happening. ChatGPT, of course, says, great question. Aren't you so smart? So yes, if you're an early adopter and basically open to risk, like, trying it out. But no, if you are actually looking for a fully mature, am I able to replace the humans out there style, ChatGPT says no. I mean, they got into some trouble now with their new launch. But anyways, so so we start with the first part on mentoring.
Yep.
I give you the...
Thank you. Right, so we were thinking maybe a bit of a disclaimer, right? So we say, like, essentially, we are going to talk about how career or how AI can help you with career and some other related topics. But when we say AI, we mostly mean like Perplexity, ChatGPT, and tools like where you can easily access the newest, latest, and greatest LLM, right? So we are not going to talk about some specific tools. There are many out there, with vibe coding. Essentially, only the fantasy is the limit that you build. But unfortunately, at least from my perspective, none of them is mature enough to actually tell you use this tool, right? So therefore, we will talk about some kind of generical concept and framework you can use, kind of mental framework you can use for yourself to decide where you would like to reach out to LLM or where you would like to better reach out to the person, right? And since we both kind of have scientific background, of course, we kind of we're very keen to do research, right? So it's also a lot of our own research, let's say, on the current status of the field, so to speak, with our reflection based on our mentoring or coaching experience, right? So I was thinking when I was preparing for this discussion today, I thought, okay, if we want to talk about AI for mentoring, maybe it makes sense to kind of align what mentoring actually is, right? Because there are many things. So I mean, kind of the lowest definition you can get will be that mentoring is that you have some experience, colleague or peer who share their wisdom with you, right? This is what many people kind of understand under the mentoring, but in the nutshell, it does many things. And the good mentor is supposed to support you in or can support you in various fields. It doesn't mean they have to cover everything that was mentioned on the slide, but really good mentors cover at least, I would say, 2 out of this, right? And this might be career guidance, right? So you say, okay, I'm kind of feel stuck. I'm not sure what to do. Can you tell me what the options would be for me to have a fulfilled career, right? This kind of closely related to the skills. Yeah, it's working. The skills development, right? So if you say, okay, I feel stuck, most probably you already explored everything what you can do with your current skill set and you need to grow somehow, right? Another important thing is feedback, right? So that you get kind of constant feedback from your mentor. How are you doing? If anything what you're doing is right or wrong, and so on. And this is also related to the growth and the confidence, right? So when you get the feedback, you also can kind of feel better if you grow as fast as you want, and also maybe increase your confidence. Well, goal setting and accountability kind of comes along with that. So making sure that you know what you are doing and why you are doing this, and you're also accountable for this. And last but not least is, of course, networking. So as soon as you're talking with someone senior, they usually have a network and they might introduce you to someone they know. Right, so this is in the nutshell what mentoring with human is about. So now let's look what you can do with AI. So which part of this you can actually cover with AI. So I think like if you think about career, many people are getting stuck at the point when I simply don't know what is out there, right? So like if you look at the data and AI, so many people know what data science role is about, but this is for many people essentially it, especially for the newcomers. So here I believe AI is a great tool, and by AI, again, I mean like ChatGPT and those alike, is a great tool to explore a career, right? So the prompt will be, what are some emerging career options for someone with skills, blah, 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 and interest in blah, 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 right? This is a nice kind of starting point, and then you can ask more questions, see if it's kind of leading you somewhere, and also see, how far you can go. Another quite funny prompt I love to ask, especially about my own jobs. What are the top reasons people tend to love, and top 3 reasons people tend to dislike careers as data scientist, solution architect, you name it, right? It gives you quite interesting answers. And I think for people who have no idea about this particular profession, so to speak, it might give you some hints. I mean, I would take it always with grain of salt, but it might give you some hints what might be particular obstacles on your way and what are the things you might not enjoy, and you kind of need to agree with this, right? You can also ask all questions about like less known professions, especially emerging career options and stuff like this, right? So here it is important to use right wording, right? Because if you just ask what are some options for me here, you will get very standard list of the topics, right? So the wording here is important. So less known, emerging, and things like that help you to get a bit less obvious things you can use later on. Yeah, you will get the slide deck afterwards, therefore you don't need to write down right now anything, after I see some people are doing this. I was also noticing some time ago that yeah, the options you get here if you don't put the right wordings are kind of very standard. So in data, it will be data scientist, a data engineer, and maybe data analyst if you're really lucky. So some time ago, I was trying to build my own tool. This is called AI Roles Assistant, where essentially based on your story, it suggests you some less obvious roles, right? It does suggest obvious as well, but also less obvious as I know them. So I created kind of a database of a role. Yeah, I think it's a bit better than standard ChatGPT, but you can play with it yourself and tell me afterwards if it's really better. Yeah, so the career exploration, essentially the idea here, you want to brainstorm some things and you want to do this on your own. And I think ChatGPT or Perplexity might be a great kind of sparring partner for this. The next thing which you usually do, okay, you found some new role, you prepared yourself, and now you would like to look for a new job, right? So the job search support also can be done with ChatGPT. I think here I usually advise to do two things. First of all, check if your CV is ITS compliant. Did anyone heard about ITS before? Okay, there are some people. Yeah, so essentially, ITS is kind of a system which automatically checks and filters out the candidates for the interview, right? So it means if you apply for some job before your application is actually seen by any human being, there will be some, well, nowadays it might be AI system, which essentially looks at your application and decides whenever or not it's worth for a human to see, right? I must say here, we are lucky here in Germany that company actually don't use it that widely from my experience. So usually, indeed, if you apply in Germany, there will be some poor human being who will look at every single application. Whenever it is good or bad thing, it's debatable because I think after 100 applications, people get tired. But yeah, and this is why you should apply early and so on. But anyway, you can expect system like this. And why it is interesting to check if your CV is compliant with such approach is that it kind of gives you hints in very structured way what else you can improve or you can add in your CV. And here you can check it from two perspectives. So one will be you just upload your CV and ask it for kind of any position if it will be ITS compliant, meaning if your file is readable at all. Or you can do a bit more smarter way. You essentially provide the job description you're interested in first, and then you ask LLM to extract for you some things like keywords, hard skills, soft skills, experience and accomplishment, and then you see how you can adjust your own CV to meet this requirement. Works very well, proved by many people with whom I work. Another interesting thing is interview preparation, right? So when you know what interview is coming up, and you're not sure how to prepare, you can try to find the information about this interview. So there are few of the websites out there where people usually post about the experience. If you don't know any of these websites, you can do this through ChatGPT, so to speak, with search for relevant information. One thing you should be aware that this information might be outdated, right? And nowadays, especially when you apply for the data roles, the requirements and how the interview goes might be quite different compared to 3 years ago, right? Therefore, be careful here and also check the reference, how old are we? Right, and the last area, I believe, which is kind of also great field to experiment with LLMs, what I called evergreen advice. Evergreen advice means you are thinking about problem you know for sure exists for many, many years. So the topic which exists and you know that it may be not changing that fast, right? So not with every LLM update. And you would like to get to know this information, right? So here it might be how to network in some particular domain. So let's say you work in an energy domain, how you can network there, how to get promoted in well-established company, for example, Amazon or Meta and so on. Yeah, what are the top 100 most asked questions about ML on the interviews and things like that. Also, if there is a topic you know also exists for quite some time and you need kind of a study plan, how to study this fast within some certain constraints, right? So example, Python, right? So you can also ask how to learn Python from 0 to pro in 100 days. right? Again, I would not recommend to use this for less established tools like, I don't know, agentic AI and stuff, because the material you will get most probably won't be that good in the quality. But for something which exists for many, many years, like programming languages, this is great tool. Another thing I wanted to remind, right, so that LLM do use more energy than the normal search. Therefore, if you know that this topic exists for years, maybe you can also ask Google for this information, right? Instead of kind of, yeah, be nice to our nature. This is the idea. Right, and now let's look at the leadership.
Do you want to answer any questions if there are already no
Yeah,
questions?
if there are questions, I'm happy to take them. Yeah,
Okay, I have a question. I write my CV in LaTeX,
sure.
and then I would like to use actually, also incorporate those keywords into my LaTeX. But as I'm lazy, I want to have an automated way to do this. So
Right.
I want to give my CV to ChatGPT, extract the keyword, and then it should go back into my LaTeX. Have you ever, because this targeting the CV to a certain offer takes quite some time, and I'm fed up with that. So do you have any advice on this?
I mean, just last week I have seen yet another tool which essentially applies on your behalf, meaning you just upload your CV, it changes it for depending on the role and applies for you. I mean, you need to pay something, but I think it's quite interesting approach. Yeah, I mean, you can. The nice thing, I mean, here you need to add maybe a bit more programming if you like, right? So I'm not sure if the ChatGPT through the chat window will allow you to enforce the structure, but the idea will be that you work with LLM, you enforce the structure of output, and then you can just use it with copy paste or directly just create a PDF file out of it, right? But to be honest, I'm not working with LaTeX for quite some time now, so I never tried it with ChatGPT.
But you can script it, right? That is
Yes.
an advantage, and you can push it.
Maybe
Right.
you can do it with Claude, because then it just has to write code.
Yeah, actually,
overleaf.
this is a good idea. Yeah. I mean,
So I would use a coding LLM, which
Also,
is
what I would ask, maybe I got to understand it. What I'm searching for is that I have option, for example, in LaTeX or Word, where I can switch on and off certain keywords, if that makes more sense. Yeah, and depending on the profile, the keywords are, for example, automatically selected.
right.
And
But
then-
because you can treat the LaTeX as a code, right? When you can use any LLM which is working with code, like Claude, sorry,
to generate different versions.
and you just generate different versions and
Yeah, and hope for the best.
let us know how fast you will find your next job, so we know if it's working or not.
Switching from different versions.
Okay,
Yeah.
If you want, I can share.
Yeah, you can share with everybody if you want.
Yeah, sounds cool. More questions or comments?
One thing I see, especially in Germany, they ask for cover letter.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have a feeling that is something really you have to make it for the company you apply, but it's always time taking, right? Like,
Right.
And like I did try, like you make one and then just tell it to adapt to this and it changes everything.
Right.
So I just want to know what could be the right prompts for that. Like sometimes it just, like you want to express some idea, but they would just completely adapt and go just or will it work in that way that you have to just let it adapt to the company and
Right.
yeah,
I
just
mean,
that way.
here you need to kind of, first of all, understand what do you think the good cover letter could look like, right? So for you, I always say it should be something about the company, why you're interested in the company and in this particular role. And it should be something about you, but it will kind of have second priority, so to speak, right? So first it should be about them, more or less. And then what are you sharing about you might depend regarding what we're asking for, right? So therefore here you can consider kind of providing more information about yourself to LLM, right? And some kind of a job description, information about the job. And then kind of put the structure, please cover this, that, and that, depending on what your personal preferences regarding the cover letter. And always do read it afterwards, right? Because if it's clearly AI generated, it does not suit you well. And this is another thing. I would say cover letter is quite often optional thing. So if you can skip it, I would suggest to skip it, right?
That is
And another advice I would give here, if you write really kind of, if you send template cover letter, it might be reason for rejecting you, because they say, oh, you actually don't care, you just apply everywhere, right? So they will be really, how to say, disappointed by seeing the template later, and the same goes for the GenAI letter, which is clearly was generated, right? Therefore, it must be kind of your own. So therefore, if you can skip it, just skip it. And if there is absolutely must, you have to reply, do take some time to kind of make it your own, right? So, I mean, you can use LLM as an input, because sometimes you just sit in front of a white list and don't know what to write, but never send whatever the output was, right? So it must be something edited by you. But I hope the cover letter will become kind of absolute.
Absolute, yeah.
Because it's absolutely exactly, because it's just, I mean, everyone knows that no one is writing cover letter on their own anymore, right?
Thank
Yeah,
you so much.
If you can get a referral,
This
to
is
find like
this is much
that's
better.
what she meant with the networking part. You go into networking, and ideally you find out a way that you can know someone who knows someone in that company, like find a way to connect yourself to the company. Even you can, I mean, everybody is now quite used to cold outreach on LinkedIn. It's weird, but a lot of people are doing it and are normalizing it. And if you find someone in the company, and like if you can convince them with an informal conversation for them to refer you to a job that you saw, you can get out of doing the cover letter. I have never done that, to be honest, but I have seen people doing that.
We can discuss this maybe afterwards.
Yeah,
How much does it work?
Yeah. Yeah, like you have to the balance between being creepy and weird, right? So okay. Because questions. Okay. So moving on to the next part, when we can have further questions at the end. So what about self-coaching in data leadership or tech? So, I mean, it's debatable what's the difference between coaching and mentoring. There are no real hard lines, and who you ask, you probably get the same definition for both. So we are not going to go today so much into the definition. I won't go. But yeah, so I think a lot of people who come to leadership coaching that I've interacted with are either struggling with topics like getting career direction or understanding and navigating workplace dynamics. Most of the times, everything is connected, and the solution to everything will be communication. It's the part that people feel less comfortable giving feedback at work. So, and then they say, hey, learn more technical skills. But in the end, they are like, actually, I don't know how to talk to you. How to get sustainable growth, right? So we all want career growth, but we don't want to spend 10 hours after work learning another thing. Also getting goal clarity. There's so many goals out there at the moment. Like what we can do in our career is like almost like an infinite possibility list. And too many. We have like, when you go into a supermarket, into a store like Zara, when they had sales, and you're like paralyzed, you can't buy anything anymore because it's just mountains of clothes, and you're like, I don't know what I want anymore, and you go out. And then how to have influence, how to be invited to the right meetings, how to be listened to when your opinion is going against the general consensus of people in different positions. So these are things that people are struggling with in various constellations and combinations. And this would be kind of what falls into some of the topics that fall into coaching, and there's a lot more other ones. And so, but how do people start going, like asking themselves their problems? And then they usually go and like, you can Google it, you can put it in an LLM, in a prompt, but you basically have some problems. So I picked today 3 main problems, and let's say one would be people don't listen to my recommendations. In most cases, a simple model would do, but they want GenAI. large language models, even if I can fix it with a regression, or my manager is really bad at their job. Honestly, I could do it better. Or I have no idea what skill to focus on anymore. Everything changes so fast. So these are like 3 of the things from before. Does anything from here sound familiar to anybody? Okay. So yeah, so when we have these problems and we feel like, okay, this is the problem that I'm having, this is like what I'm feeling right now. It's like I hate my boss, or I don't know what to learn, or I'm speaking to people, but it seems that I'm annoying them whenever I tell them that I don't agree with their opinion. So we go and do a prompt in any LLM, and you will get this kind of answer. That is a great question. Here are some strategies. You always get that, so even like for the first one, you can try it out. I am a whatever data scientist, blah blah. How do I convince stakeholders GenAI isn't always the answer? Or how do I deal with a bad manager? Or my current role is this. What skills should I learn next? So these are like some prompts, and if you give this prompt, you will get like an endless list of options and strategies that you could do. But honestly, if you talk to a human, nobody would actually treat you like that. I'm having an analogy in here, so I think AI is really good at giving you a list of quick fixes, but my question here is this the best approach? So let's say you have a headache, and I tried it out now. I wrote on ChatGPT that I have a headache, and it told me get some rest, hydrate yourself, take an aspirin, well, painkiller. Yeah, so it went directly in like, here's the solution for your problem. But actually, if you go to a doctor, they will try to find out, why do you have a headache? Like maybe you have a concussion and just getting an aspirin would just kill you. Or not, I don't know, I'm not a doctor. I mean, I am a doctor, but not that kind of doctor. But I did watch a lot of Grey's Anatomy, so I feel like I'm a doctor.
It won't kill you, but it won't help you either.
If you have a concussion, aspirin?
Okay, let's ask ChatGPT afterwards.
Okay, yes, this is a very valid point. We always get, yeah. So a human doctor, a good human doctor, of course, you might have the doctors that just give you an aspirin. They would start asking questions like, when did it start? Where exactly is your headache? Like you have to, like, is it here? Is it there? Which kind of headache do you have? And what else is happening? What else has happened that you think might lead to that headache, right? And after that, after you get a diagnosis, you can start giving a cure or like giving like what medicine you need for that diagnosis. And I was like, what has been happening? Well, I didn't drink any water since yesterday. Anastasia is drinking water, just for the audience. Anyway, I haven't had any water since yesterday. Or I see her drinking water, so I'm not going to recommend her to drink some water if she tells me now that she has a headache, right? That would be weird. So I think the biggest difference at the moment would be that the human in the loop would first ask some questions. I mean, of course, if you go to a family member and you complain about something, they will directly give you advice, because that's what family members do. But a person that doesn't know everything theoretically about you might ask you some questions, someone impartial. So what are some reasons that are behind those problems that I mentioned that are not actually part of the quick fixes, right? So when you have like people want GenAI for everything and they ignore my simple solution, actually you could have a communication issues. Like you're not there yet with presenting why the simple solution might be better than GenAI. Or you have a timing problem. How and when are you raising the concerns? Everybody has already agreed that we are going GenAI, and here you go coming and saying, no, we should do normal models. It's too late. Like you're wasting your effort, for example. It happens. Stakeholder pressure, are they being pushed by executives? So exactly the same. It's already been agreed. You do not have any more options to change that decision. Or you might even have a credibility gap that it's not obvious to you. You are not seen as an expert. Somehow. Nobody has, okay, how many of you think or how many have you discovered ever accidentally that your manager, has not actually read your CV because they were not the ones that hired you? Yeah, it also happened to me a couple of times. I was told, you've just started doing data science now. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was doing data science already for 4 years when I was told by my manager that I just started doing data science, just because in that company, they just started the data science team. I was like, you didn't even read my CV? I was like, wow. I was like, how did I not see that coming? Anyways, so yeah. So just because you know stuff doesn't mean that the people around you know that you know stuff, especially the people who are decision makers. So my manager is terrible. I could do better when you feel like a little bit angry about that. So again, there can be some different reasons behind it. There can be a skill mismatch. Like that person that is a manager now was a technical person and they got promoted to leadership without leadership training. That happens very often. So that is the usual suspect out there. And because of this, it is more likely that you will always get a lot of advice on this. Then there might be different priorities. So I don't know if you know about the term of managing up, but when you manage your manager, so to say, you need to understand what are the priorities of your manager. If you're working towards completely different priorities, you are not going to interact very well. Even if you think you're doing the good thing, but you're just doing something that your manager doesn't care about. So then you can have communication style clashes. So communication comes again. One, you might be direct, they might be diplomatic, or the other way around. And if somebody has to adapt, and usually the one that has to adapt will be the person that wants something from the other person. So if your manager doesn't care about you, they will not make a step to adapt. If you care about your career, well, you have to learn whatever language that person is speaking. Your own readiness, maybe you're not actually ready to manage, to move to a different responsibility, and you're kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and you're not seen as confident and totally committed. And then the one thing that I've noticed quite often is the negative focus trap. So our brains are really good at focusing on the negative stuff and then like overthinking those. It's just how, if you see a cheetah out there, you know to run no matter how long you've lived or you're born in a city, So this is just our brain. It's nice, but it's got its limitations that we need to know about. So that means you're so focused on the things that your manager is doing wrong that you actually forget that they were promoted for a reason. And to try to kind of think of like, what could possibly be that reason that this person is a manager for? Can I actually learn something from them? And then instead of seeing the person so much as a impediment, maybe you can start seeing that you can also get some value out of that relationship, and it's like a little bit of mind shift. I mean, of course, if you have a toxic manager, nothing of here is working, so you need a new job. Anyways, so that's part 6. And the last one, everything changes too fast. What should I learn? There can be some possible reasons also here that can be behind, and this is kind of like one of them would be to have you might have this reactive learning pattern. You're following trends versus being strategic about what is important in the future, what could be important. We can't really predict the future because then we would be rich, but you can guess a little bit and then kind of being strategic about your career rather than just, this person is learning this, I will learn this too, or things like that. Or I think what would be valuable in your company in a couple of months, and then try to angle yourself towards that. Then the FOMO is real, the fear of missing out. Everybody's posting on LinkedIn about all the courses that they're doing. I mean, everybody has a lot of time. It just looks like that, right? Everybody's getting certificate after certificate. doing boot camps, Zoom camps, whatever camps, writing books. I mean, you could do this too, right? All of it at once, right? So the FOMO is real. Is your feeling of this overwhelm, is it truly because you have a skill gap, or is it because of everybody seems to be, like little bees learning out there, maybe it's just good to chill and continue carrying on like you are, I mean, so maybe you don't have a skill gap, maybe you just have a communication gap or some other thing to communicate what you know already. And then there's the career direction uncertainty. A lot of people who are in senior roles have to decide at some point if they want to go into leadership or IC. And as we often have very in a lot of companies still in Germany are hierarchical, it usually feels like if you go up, it's going to look bad if you go down again, if you don't like the up, right? So if you go into leadership, can I go back? There's not a lot of space officially to try things out. Can I try leadership work to see if I like leadership and then decide whether I want to go? So sometimes things happen really fast. People are pushed into leadership. We see a lot of people going into leadership that are not leadership there yet. So this is an uncertainty that a lot of people are facing at that point in their career. And again, current role pressure versus future planning. How much should you give to each of those? Maybe for the current role, you need to learn a lot of things or juggle a lot of things. How do you make space to learn the future things? You have to make space, because as we concluded that nobody has 20 hours, 10 hours after work to learn more things. And then again, the learning approach, are you scattered or do you have the strategic focus? Do you have a plan? Are you following a plan? I think when you ask ChatGPT or anything and they give you like a long plan, that is also overwhelming. So maybe figure out how to get like a reasonable, useful plan. How do you design a useful plan? So I was pointing towards Anastasia for the people. Okay, so one of the frameworks for coaching when you talk to a human, okay, it's called TGROW, and this stands for topic, goal, reality, options, and way forward. And that means that in the first part of the coaching session, you start talking about what do you want to explore today, what is your goal, what would success look like to you, and then what's actually happening right now. And in most of these coaching sessions, the most time spent is on the first three parts on understanding the problem. If you off the bat use ChatGPT to solve your problems, it will go directly to solutions because that's kind of how it operates. It doesn't mean it can't do different, but it means that you have to tell it that you want it to do different. So, and the option is what possibilities do you see and what will you actually do? That's the plan. So the plan is like at the very end, right? And this reality part is like if you would be the doctor, that's what the diagnosis part is, to understand, okay, so, okay, do you have communication? Who have you talked to? What have you tried so far? What did work? And there all the, let's say, dirty laundry can come out, and so on. So taking the prompts we had before and transforming them into diagnostic prompts actually turns the work back to you, because you would tell whatever language model that you don't want the solution, you want it to help you identify the real problem. Because what you actually said is what you feel, what your symptom is, but you want to find out what is the cause for that, what can possibly be the cause. So for the first one with the GenAI and stakeholders, the one prompt could be, I'm frustrated that stakeholders want GenAI for simple problems. Before giving advice, ask me 5 questions to understand what might be driving this pattern. then I think my manager is ineffective and I could do better. Help me explore what's really happening by asking questions that might reveal blind spots in how I'm viewing the situations before suggesting any actions. Or I'm overwhelmed by how fast everything changes and don't know what to focus on. Ask me questions to help me figure out if I'm learning reactively or strategically and what research I should do about the future relevance of different skills. Wow, that's like, as you can see, the prompts are generated with AI, so they are obviously long. Okay, and the answer of ChatGPT or Perplexity would be, got it. I'll hold off on giving advice for now. And then it lists the questions. So the pro tip about this, I don't know if you're ever tried rubber ducking or you've heard about the concept of rubber ducking. Okay, so you take a rubber duck, you put it on your desk, in Hamburg, who doesn't have a rubber duck? Oh my gosh. Okay, there are some people that raise their hands, they do not have a rubber duck. I only have 2 left in my flat, but I used to have a lot of, I don't know, they somehow collected. Anyway, so you take a rubber duck and you talk to it. Because the thing is, when we have a problem, and you do this in Tej, it's like sometimes, has it ever happened to you? You want to ask, you have a problem, you start asking a question to a colleague, and in the middle of the question, you realize the answer. That is because when you're thinking about it, you don't have a full sentence and the things are not truly connected. But when you start speaking it out loud, you're like, wait, okay, I got it, right? So the pro tip is, don't just think about the answers. So when you ask ChatGPT or Perplexity for questions for yourself to self-diagnose, don't just think about those answers to the questions. Either answer them out loud to a toy, you can have a teddy bear, whatever, it doesn't have to be a rubber duck, or do it in writing. So yes, it's still going to be some work on your part. Yeah, so the mind reading chips and all that are not there yet.
Not yet.
Not this year. No. Although, didn't Elon Musk? Anyways, so okay, so summary. AI can brainstorm solutions perfectly well. They will be generic solutions. They will be not very niche, right? So whatever people are posting out there, it's taking the most frequent ones. Anyway, but AI will struggle on its own with the diagnosis. As you saw, the diagnosis will come from you giving those answers. So it can help you with the questions. And then comes the second part where you still need humans for the context and this deeper exploration. To kind of really figure out is like what is relevant in the context to this problem. So yeah.
Now we come to the part what AI can do for you.
Yeah.
But before we jump to this, any questions on the AI for
Yeah,
leadership?
there's any
Maybe from people in the room?
So there are some questions which were generated. So was it also generated by AI or was it generated by you?
They were generated by AI. I asked it to generate questions that help generate questions.
Because you know what to ask, right?
Yes.
So it's
So
essentially a formulation of Tereza's thoughts in the nice.
Exactly.
way.
So it's.
So if I take the T-Grow approach and if I do the first 3 points myself,
Yeah,
and put that in the LLM, so I might get some.
Yeah, you might
interesting,
like for
suggestions.
yeah, for example, you might have identified that in the end you have a very bad opinion about your manager. You cannot see any good parts in, and then you say, okay, it seems I have what can I do to change this behavior that I have? Because you are not. So one thing about coaching and like feedback in general, when you learn about feedback, is that the only thing that you have control and you can change is your own behavior. I mean, you're not your manager's mother, father, whatever. You cannot impose that they behave in a specific way. You can tell them that something that they do is not, useful for you and whatever. But if they don't have any, I mean, think about it for yourself. If someone comes to you and say, look, I would like you to behave like this when you talk to me, you're like, what? So yeah. So you need to find out, and then you can get advice on like really specific strategic things from like the things you could do, but still, otherwise, when you get this list from an LLM with all the things that you do, you're like, oh yeah, that sounds relevant. That sounds good. That sounds, yeah, that's good. That's good. Thanks. And in goes and out goes. And you're like, I read another post written by a large language model. No value extracted.
Generally, the results are so long, and even if you summarize to it, it doesn't give you the valid things you expect.
Yeah.
So it's not, working.
Yeah, it's also a bit about credibility, right? I mean, when you're talking with human, you kind of respect this person for the reason. And for LLM, you always kind of, if it says what you like, and this is why ChatGPT always tells you, great question, you're fantastic, right? So kind of, if it tells you what you expect, you kind of, oh yes, I'm doing great, right? But if it tells you, maybe you have a problem, you're like, what do you know, your stupid LLM model? And this is where it might be challenging. And you also need to be open to this, right? So like first of all, like with Tigro approach, but also you need to be open and kind of think, okay, maybe this is something indeed true, but as you said, it might be quite long to actually read it till the end, right? So
yeah, and you can even tell it, I want us to follow this framework for our interaction today.
Right.
You can say, I want to follow this one. But then all the answers that you have to put them back in, right?
Yeah.
So you still have to give it input about like clarifying input. So, and that's.
Is it then not about this data security a little bit, that if you are sharing too much details about yourself to get some good ideas, but it's still,
Yeah.
is it safe?
This is another very great topic, right? So how much actually you want to share with this thing hosted somewhere in US about your personal issues, right?
So maybe you don't want to do it.
Local AI as well.
Yes, yeah, if you can use some local
I mean,
models.
if you do personal stuff, I would switch to local AI.
But like, for example, for coding, the local stuff, the quality does not compare to.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
if you want to explore
Yeah.
personal behavior patterns with a large language model, I'd rather choose the local Quen than a cloud-based tool.
Yeah, right. Now this is a good
and then, for
question.
example, OpenAI, I think, is now in a lawsuit, and for that they have to save all the prompts while this lawsuit is running. So then that's why I usually like to use Perplexity, but I'm also like, who knows when that changes, right? So so you don't really have, so the local stuff, there's nice models that you can get with Olama locally and set it up locally, and as long as you don't want, and then for the solution part, you can go back to the big large language models that are online, and they can review the whole internet and give you like the whatever random things. But as you said, for the diagnosis part, for like really figuring out what is the real problems that you are having that are blind spots for you, that you can do with the local, because it's, I mean, all it has to do is read some psychology books, right? Just some easy, you know, some self, you can even ask, have you read this book and this book and then
Okay, then let's move to the last part.
There you go.
Thank you.
Now I clicked on.
Yeah, right. We wanted, I mean, Tereza already started to talk what AI can do for you, right? We want to just wrap it up together. And here I'm going back to this first picture I showed to you, or first slide I showed to you about mentoring support and what it does, right? And I guess, thank you. I think it's quite clear already here that there are many things which require kind of human in the loop, right? And I think for me, the big difference between coaching and mentoring is that a lot of work in mentoring actually happens behind the scene, right? So you kind of align with mentor what you should be doing, and then you kind of have a check-in session. Yeah, of course, you get the feedback and a bit of coaching along the way, but a lot of things you're supposed to do kind of outside of the session, and this is what you can try with ChatGPT or local LLM, but this is quite hard, I would say, with our accountability part, and also the growth and the related confidence part. To keep it a bit more high level, we combine together with Tereza all possible things. You should be, mindful and maybe not even try it with LLM, regardless if it's local or not. One thing we should keep in mind that most of LLMs we are using nowadays were trained on for English-speaking users based on US culture or culture in the English-speaking country. Therefore, like for Germany, again, if you are not asking in every single prompt that you, or telling in every single prompt that you're in Germany, the answers might be not quite applied culturally wise, right? And there is some differences. And I would say this is in general true. Many things, this is why it's really hard to get any good career advice from LLM, not just because of this more structured way, how you usually should ask for a question, so how coach or mentor can help you to get to the answers, but also many things which are happening in career actually happening behind the closed door, right? And people are not publishing this in internet, right? So what's going on in your company? Therefore, it will be really hard to kind of get to this information from the outside world, right? Another important thing is emotional intelligence and psychological safety, right? So like it's I like this example about headache, right? So it's quite often the reason for your headache might be the stressful situation at work, right? So you can cure the symptom with aspirin or water, or
For a bit.
taking kind of care of yourself, but this is not kind of solving the problem itself, right? So in here, your human counterpart can help you. And the same with psychological safety, as we just discussed. You trust LLM answers as soon as they're kind of aligned with your expectation, and if they're not, you also maybe not so kind of, how to say, safe. You're not feeling safe enough to share things which you might share with another human. And it takes a lot of time to develop this relationship with your mentor and coach. Well, accountability, LLM does not care if you did what it said or not, which might be good and bad things, right? And the context recognition, which we also discussed, right? So how does it fit in your broader career story, in your kind of vision and your hopes for the future? So some other things which are coming from my mentoring experience, right? So where I see people coming for advice quite often, and I don't see, unfortunately, I mean, I would be happy if ChatGPT can help me, but it can't. Example, very simple thing, suggestion, ideas for the pet project, right? So everyone kind of knows you need to kind of practice, you need to do some projects on your own. If you ask any LLM which project you should do, you most probably will get this, okay, look at the Titanic at Kaggle stuff, right? So everyone does it. So it doesn't really understand the context you are living in. Therefore, it's I think it's similar to the coaching sessions that there are many questions you should ask before to diagnose why you want to do the pet project, to actually decide what you should do. Cutting from the noise, right? So what are the skills I should learn right now? It's really hard. I think here's the big difference between, let's say, Google and any LLM, that it does not really look at the relevance of the results yet, right? So if you use LLM as an interface for the search, for a smart search, the results you will get will be still a bit of a random, right? So sometimes you might find some nice and really kind of diamond resources, but more often you get some really noisy things which are created clearly with GenAI not helping you at all. Mock interviews. This is another topic for people who are looking for a job. There is nothing better than practice. And here, unfortunately, GenAI is still not there yet to actually recognize how you're performing during the interview to give you some meaningful advice. Cover letter we just discussed, and cold outreach, what Tereza also mentioned when you write people on the LinkedIn. Yeah, if you just generate it with GenAI and send it, people will never get back to you. Right?
I didn't say that.
No, I'm not.
Cold outreach.
No. I'm just saying.
I agree.
Like
if you cold outreach with AI, then I also like. Oh my gosh.
You see, yeah, and human issues, right? So this is what I think. Maybe if you take anything from this session, as soon as you suspect that the issue you're facing might be related to the people around you, right? So, and some people will tell you, yeah, you're not good. You should learn this tool and that tool. But you still kind of feel it might be related to the people around you. I don't think LLM is there yet to help you with this, right? It can suggest you some things, but it won't be able on its own, at least right now, to ask you proper questions to get down to a resource. Right. With this said, there are many things, and I hope we covered this today, where AI can help you, or at least could be a great starting point, and I advise you to use it well, with cautious about your privacy. And give it a try and see how far you can go. Right, and this brings us to the end of our session. Here are QR codes to our LinkedIn if you'd like to connect with us. No need to write a message with GenAI. Right, so feel free to reach out. And now we are happy to answer any questions left. There was a lot of information.
Yeah, but everybody is now. So who is going to try now to use the large language models for their careers, or who has already tried?
Yeah,
They are.
basic. So I just one question. So right now for career growth, mostly the basic thing is resume, right? You are first making shiny CV that has everything into it. So what is the future of that? Like what is the future of resume that it will be with the AI?
I don't think resume is working, to be honest, right? I mean, most of the jobs, and there are some numbers, which I'm not sure if it's applied to Germany or not, but for US, there are some numbers that more than half of the positions are actually filled through the networking, right? So through the contacts. And I believe, I mean, I don't know the number, but I can see also among my friends and mentors that it's quite often very helpful to have a connection, let's say, to a company. And this is another.
I think this is because there are more. So the question, we will have to repeat the questions because
Sure.
we don't have a microphone.
Right.
So yeah. So the question was about what is the future of using resumes for jobs. I think the issue now is that we somehow have a little bit more applicants than jobs for data, and that's why if they get flooded with CVs, they will prioritize the ones that have referrals.
Yeah.
Let's say like that. But I wanted to add here something that is a nice experiment that you can do is ask an LLM to take every information that is about you out there publicly and consider your CV as a public information. You can upload it and so on, your LinkedIn profile, and ask it, what does it think you're qualified for? Or would it work with you? What kind of jobs would it recommend? What does your public image for this how do you come across? And then start thinking for yourself, how much does that overlap with your personal image about yourself? And identify the gaps and start investing in communicating publicly about those gaps. Like where do you feel like, wait, why is this not obvious? Okay, I'm gonna start making this obvious in your CV and so on. Before, I think my advice for people who are writing CVs were to give the CV to a friend and ask the friend, someone or a colleague that they've worked with, and ask them, hey, if you look at the CV, does it reflect our work together? How you perceive me? And then it's like, oh no, your CV is a little bit like cold and it's very generic, and you come off as, I don't know, yet another, but I know you for this and this, and it's not coming out of your CV. So that was before. You can do that. Now you don't have to have friends anymore.
No, but I mean, I do agree with this, and I think it's called personal branding, and when people hear this, they're like, it's about becoming an influencer, right? So people who are chasing the fame. It's not like that, and I absolutely agree with you. So you're kind of, the image out there is the first thing people remember about you, most probably. And this is how you're known outside of your current company. And maybe for some people within a company, right? So I'm outside of my data and AI mentoring activities, I also work in full-time in quite big company. And I can imagine many people inside the company don't know me, but on the LinkedIn, they might read my posts, right? So therefore I need to be also cautious what I post there. And things like that. And this is also something which might potentially bring you opportunities, because it might happen that you have not decided to look for a job. It just happened for some reason, but you need to look for a new one, and you're better to be prepared. You're better to have a network. You're better to have something in the internet which kind of counts in your profile, and then you might not even need CV afterwards.
So, for example, one of the things that Anastasia always does after she goes to a meetup is write about it on LinkedIn, that she has attended this meetup and learned this and that and what she enjoyed and her key takeaways, you know. And I mean, she's doing it. It's people are reading that. They're learning about the meetup. It's not like you're not just writing, oh, I'm like awesome and I can do 10 push-ups, right? So, right?
I think we should try this.
We should try this. I can do 10 push-ups. Anyway, so but it's just like having a little bit of a habit of using the fact that you are doing that and you're reflecting and you are part of communities, and then you start getting connected to the people that are connected to the people, and that's kind of a way to do the networking as well. So who's going to write about today on somewhere? You can write it on Slack or on LinkedIn, and we also have Blue Sky. But we're not on Twitter anymore because Twitter is dead.
Okay,
No
some
pressure.
people will write. Yeah.
You had a question?
Yeah.
You had. I thought so.
I just wanted to add to this tema which we discussed that maybe it's good just to ask what is wrong with my resume. ChatGPT, maybe it's also a good one. I wanted to do it as the idea after this because it's also I can write something and it can say, okay, there is no information about this one, but it's clear that you did this. Am I right? And you can add some information, just something like this. I wanted to add when we discussed this.
Yeah. So she said like to also ask what's wrong with my resume when you ask ChatGPT, but also I would also add to ask stuff like if someone were to, like, if a recruiter saw my data or my CV, what would they see as red flags or risks?
Yeah, this is actually good.
It's not bad at that. It gives some stuff. I mean, you can take it or leave it, right? It doesn't force it. But I think that's also interesting sometimes.
Yeah, because when they say to write some minuses about yourself and you are thinking what it would be your minus, that's not something which would be very
Where do you want to write the minuses?
Previously, for previous jobs, not the current one, I had the situation when they want to see your advantages and disadvantages from both your sides. So you can write something about yourself.
In the CV? No.
No, I mean
in the interview.
application.
No,
In the application.
Not only in interviews, sometimes you have templates and you can add some information there.
Right.
So in this case, it will be great just to ask ChatGPT to analyze this information.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is quite many companies recognize that cover letter is not, the thing anymore. So they try to be a bit more smart, and then you need to fill like a long questionnaire, where you need to answer all these questions. Why us? Why you? Why not? And things like that. And yeah, you're absolutely right. You can use ChatGPT to check if your answers are okayish, right, and aligned with the role description, and if it highlights your strengths.
Because there's a lot of research. There's a lot of people who've talked about this. How do you talk about your disadvantages in a way to make it look like an advantage?
Yeah, like what's a weakness?
Yeah, it's not a weakness. It's a work in progress.
Right. Okay, more questions or comments?
One thing which also comes to my mind is, like, we have, of course, access to AI. But like if you see the other side of table, they also have AI, and I just want to know how the game has changed at that time. Of course, they filter out CVs through their own systems, but let's say for mock interview or for interviews in this, their domain also has increased, right? Like they can go from asking ChatGPT or Perplexity questions, like what you can ask more to the candidates. And so I just wanted to know insights like how they play with AI in this, if through that.
Well, lucky us.
So I repeat the question.
Yeah.
So the question was a bit about, if I understand well, how did AI change the other side of the coin of how the recruiters and people hiring are using AI in recruiting and hiring, besides just parsing CVs, but maybe also for interview preparation and stuff like that.
I would say, lucky us, we are living in old good Germany, which is, kind of very cautious when especially in hiring, right? So they're really scared. The companies are quite scared to use AI for filtering candidates because they're afraid to introduce the bias, right? So since we can't trust the system fully, and all the consequences it might have, right? So, and this is why, thank you. This is why quite many companies still use this old good approach that people will reduce CV, or at least do participate in the filtering, right? So therefore, kind of, you don't need to satisfy. I mean, your CV should be human readable, right? So if you just kind of bombard this with keywords, it won't work for sure because there will be kind of human in the loop involved, right? On the interview front, it's kind of a mix. Obviously, many people, when they ask to do the interview, were kind of pulled out of the everyday tasks. And of course, they will use ChatGPT or some other tool to generate the questions. In some companies, they have like pool of the questions you can pick up.
And those are updated 20 years ago.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
It depends.
Depends
I
on
would
the-
say, but and it's kind of suggestion what you can use, and then you can add your own questions if you like, right? And then it strongly depends on the person who is interviewing you, how experienced they are, how much they understand what you're actually going to do in your role, and what they ask, right? And then a lot of the things they ask can, it's mostly to check how you will behave, right? So it's not, it does not really matter if you answer a question properly or not. What is important, how you address, especially the topics you don't know about, right? So do you try to come up with some, hallucinations live, right? Right? Or do you kind of acknowledge, yeah, sorry, I don't know this topic and so on. But I think right now I don't envy people who go through the interviews because it's kind of mix of everything, right? So we are still in this paradigm where you must ask this 100 ML questions, like classical ML, for the people who will never touch it whatsoever, right? So which for me a bit interesting. Why you don't ask basic mathematics stuff anymore, so why you ask this? But yeah, we're kind of in transition period, therefore you can expect everything.
And also, I think if you ask yourself which kind of questions the company is going to ask, you can judge that by the size of the company.
Mhm.
The larger the company, the more standardized the process is going to be. If it's a startup, they don't have a process. Or they do. That
they
can also
focus on the
depend
results.
if they say we have a process, they have a process. If they don't explicitly say we have an inclusive and nice hiring process, then they don't have a process. And yeah, so usually I think if a company has somewhere between 300, 1,000 employees, the process will depend on the team that is hiring you.
But this is another kind of point where I would reach out to someone more experienced, let's say, who has experience with this type of companies, to see what their suggestion would be. Even if we don't work in this company or in that size of a company anymore, we still might have some friends who are interviewing regularly, so we can give you some insight. And this information, this network information or information which reaches you from network is kind of updated much more quickly than any internet database, unfortunately. More questions? Yep.
I have just a comment. Actually, that was diagnosing the problem was really nice insight. I also realized that I'm already doing this, but I didn't put it into words actually. This is so true that it's also important to know that you can diagnose the problem. Maybe AI currently is not able to do that, but maybe in the future it will do somehow. But as you mentioned also, even if you let a human diagnose the problem, you need to answer some questions.
Yeah.
In the AI also, it will be the
Yes.
same. So, even somebody can diagnose a problem for you, or you yourself can do this. But it's important to know also updating your questions, asking more correct.
Context-aware questions.
Correct questions and
Yeah.
deterministic answers that you can get. At least I do this. The more I update my questions to get some more deterministic answers, then in the way I do the diagnosis. So it was quite interesting. You also put this in the presentation.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to share.
yeah, so and it doesn't and it's still like the person has to do the work of answering the questions. It's like until we get the chips that can do the mind reading part, and then again you don't have
Not
to do
this year,
anything. You
yes.
just sit down and have all the problems solved around you. But yeah, and then maybe with like, I think that's also with like, if I would, as a human, like if you're doing coaching with the diagnosis, right, you're not going to get asked 5 questions at once. You're going to get asked one question, and based on that answer you're going to get another question. So that's why I said, like, if you want to use it, I would invest a lot more in creating the framework for it to operate in. Say, look, I want you to use this framework. I want you to ask me a question at a time. Like, really, you can play around and see how would you coach someone that comes to you, or how would you mentor someone that comes to you, and try to reflect on that process that you would use, and then have it do that to you. So, yeah.
More questions or comments? Maybe from people
I don't
online?
see any
I
online.
also don't see.
There's no questions written.
Okay.
Okay. Networking?
Networking, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you all for joining us, especially for people online, because now we say goodbye to them, I guess.
Cheers.
See you next time, guys.
See you next time, which is going to be, we have to announce it, but I think we have lined up a meetup about introduction to Kubernetes. You know, the usual suspects. Career.
And
Kubernetes.
now Kubernetes. Finally something useful.
Finally something useful. Exactly. And yeah, and there might be another meetup eventually. But yeah, we will announce. You saw it, we have the Luma calendar you can register to, or if you're on Meetup, we announce it on Meetup. And then there's also the PyLadies Slack channel that you can join. Just go to hamburg.pyladies.com and you have all the info there about all the things you can do. And yeah. Thank you one more time to our sponsor, ThoughtWorks Hamburg and Agnes, Agata. And have a nice evening
Have a nice
to the
evening.
people online.
Yeah.
We will share the slides and we will send them as email to all the platforms where we were present.
Yeah, great.
And also if we prepare some prompts that you can use off the bat, or otherwise, I guess now everybody can prompt.